Good afternoon. It's good to see everybody. Thank you for coming here on such short notice. This morning I had an opportunity to visit with Coach Bill Cubit, inform him that we would not be retaining him as our head football coach. I want to thank Bill. As you can imagine, this has been a very difficult situation to step into. I think Bill has done an admirable job. He's been in the midst of a very delicate and challenging situation. We all understand when the change happens a week before the season begins. Really thank Bill for his incredible leadership. He stepped up and done all of the right things to provide some level of leadership and continuity to the program during what has unquestionably been a very difficult and tumultuous few months for our football team. This is not a decision that we make lightly. I think as an athletic director, you look at the different decisions that I need to make over the course of my time, and the decision to change football staffs has broader implications than just about anything else. We realize that these are real people. There's a staff there, their families, our players, our recruits. When you make a decision to change football coaches, you throw a lot of things into chaos. It's not something that we do without great deliberation and thought. I never want to lose sight of that. Very sensitive to the fact of what this means for the people who are in that building across the stadium. One of the groups that, as you can imagine, is impacted more than any other is our players. Had a chance to visit with them just a few moments ago, and I know there's been a lot of speculation about why we didn't talk to the players prior to our public release of the information today. Let's all understand that this is not 10 years ago. Information travels faster than any of us can possibly understand. And so we knew that the first person we wanted to hear about this was Bill Cubit. I had a chance to sit and talk with Coach Cubit this morning, and as soon as he left that office, people started to find out. The other coaches, by the time I left his office and got back to my own, we were already getting calls from the media. The only way that we could preserve the opportunity to tell the story in the way in which it needs to be told was to announce it immediately and bring the team together after the fact. I had a chance to talk with them about that just a few moments ago. That's a pretty special group of guys, and I hope many of you in this room and elsewhere have a chance to be around our football team. You think about all the things that they've been through over these last 6 months, 10 months, 12 months. They are a very resilient, tough, together group of men, and it was good to have the opportunity to be in that room, a room where I spent a lot of time, and I told them that. Room where I'd spent a lot of time, and to talk with them about the future of Illinois football. They understand what we're striving for. We're striving for a standard of excellence. I talked about that 2 weeks ago at my press conference, and I've continued to talk about it every opportunity I have had since. The goal for us is a championship standard. And today we took a big step in that direction. We all understand the challenges that Coach Cubit's situation presented. It's no reflection on him. He's a good football coach. He's a good man. But at the end of the day, we understood that allowing him to continue in that situation, as tenuous as it was, wasn't the most productive use of the next 9, 10 months. We have recruiting to do. We have a team to care for. We have a group of people across the way who are very committed to trying to put what has been a very bumpy few months behind us. This decision allows us to start doing that. I think at that point it might just be easiest for me to pause, and take any questions.
What was
Yes.
the players' reaction when you told them?
The players were great. The players were great. You know, and I wish there had been an opportunity for me to meet the players prior to today. There hadn't been, of course, and so we spent some time just getting to know each other a little bit. I think that I felt a connection to them. I hope they felt the same way toward me. Certainly having been one of those guys, I think helps. I've been through coaching changes. I've been in very difficult circumstances in that room and in other rooms around the country. I think having those experiences helped me connect with them, and you certainly have to ask them, but I felt really good about the conversation that we had today.
Were any of them particularly upset?
They weren't to me. They weren't to me. You know, losing a coach is upsetting. There's no question about that. You know, I say all the time, to me, that the two key relationships in college athletics are the relationships that our teammates form with each other and the relationships that our players form with their coaches. And so when you do something to disrupt one of those two relationships, in this case, changing a coaching staff, yes, there's going to be people who are upset. If there were not, then we weren't doing a very good job to begin with. But I think what's important is to put a future vision in front of them as to why we're doing it and what direction we're headed.
Josh, is this all about setting a tone, making a statement about this program?
I don't know how much it is about setting a tone, making a statement. It really is about putting ourselves in a position to develop that championship culture, to set that standard of excellence. And you know, if there is a statement to be made there, then I think we've done that. I think that people understand that we are going to do everything in our power to put our programs in a position to be successful. And if we realize that a particular decision needs to be made, we're not going to delay in making it.
Josh, do you have somebody in mind for the next hire?
We have a plan, and as you would imagine, the timing of this is what I would call a little bit non-traditional. We understand that. I hope that you would all be disappointed in me if we didn't have some idea of the direction we hope to take this thing. What we don't know is, you know, we have to work through our university process. We have things that we need to work through from the university standpoint. But we're hopeful to be able to bring this to a conclusion as quickly as we can.
How quickly can you name? Sorry. How quickly can you name a new coach? What's the soonest you can do it?
You know, that's a fair question. It's one that I'm not really in a position to answer. We are talking to our colleagues in human resources, trying to understand what that university process is, and I think that you know, once we get a better sense of that, we'll be in a better position to provide that answer.
Bill just added 5 coaches to the staff for next year.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about those guys? What's the status of those guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you feel badly. As I said, you know, these decisions have broad implications for many, many people, and I understand that in this particular case, we have a number of coaches who just came on staff in the last few months. You know, we will do right by everybody on that staff. You know, I think one thing that is very important to me, perhaps having been around football for so long, I've seen coaching changes. I understand how raw and how challenging that can be for the people involved in it. And so one hallmark of our tenure, if you will, is that we will treat people the right way when we have to make these kinds of difficult decisions. And so we'll be sure that they're taken care of.
What are you looking for, or what are the ideas of the next guy who needs to be that guy?
I think, look, everybody knows what you look for in a head football coach. We want somebody with highest integrity, strong championship vision, the opportunity and ability to relate and develop our student athletes, somebody who is a strong recruiter, someone who is able to bring a work ethic and a vision for the direction that we want to take this program. It's easy to say what we're looking for. It's much harder to find it.
Well, did you decide this was the way you had to go?
As you would imagine, it's something I've been thinking about for a long time, long before I even knew that I was going to be the person selected for this position. You look at Illinois, you understand what, again, I was asked this many times in many different ways a couple weeks ago at our press conference. But you realize what some of the challenges are. You start to think in your own mind, okay, how are we going to handle these different things? I didn't know until just recently that this was the answer, but I knew it was certainly a possible answer. And it wasn't until very recently that we decided to absolutely go this way.
Jeff, what was your conversation like with Chancellor, the President, and the Board of Trustees on making this decision?
They've been incredibly supportive. As you can imagine, changing out a football staff is not something that that I sit in a corner and make by myself. And I can't thank our Chancellor, our President, our Board. They've all been very supportive and understanding of the need to make the move now.
When did you have those conversations?
We've involved people here in the last week or so and tried to, again, these kinds of moves, particularly at a university like Illinois, are not ever a single individual. It was my decision, but you need to bring a lot of people along, and been involving more and more people over the last few days, making sure that we had full buy-in.
Were there people at the top that were not in approvance of what you're doing?
No, none.
How would this process have been different if Bill Cubit's contract was different, if it was longer?
Well, I think it certainly would change things, and there's no question about that. The contract length was one of the reasons that we felt like we needed to make a move at this particular point in time. Again, I think people realize what the length of a contract is, and if you're trying to recruit the best people, you're trying to hire the best coaches, if you have a short-term arrangement, then it's going to make it more difficult to do those things. On the other hand, if Coach Cubit had a long-term contract, then as the new athletic director, that would have put me in a fairly delicate situation as well, because perhaps that wouldn't have been the ultimate direction that we wanted to go. And so I'm glad that we had developed things the way that we did, and I feel like we've made a good decision here to move forward.
Why do you think he was not the guy to lead the football program forward?
I think it was more the things around him. Again, I think Bill has done a wonderful job. I have nothing but positive things to say about him. He's led the program through a very difficult situation, but it was more, what are we going to do for the next 8 or 9 months, and what are the long-term implications of that for the success of the program? We felt like we weren't in a position to support him in the way that he would have needed in order for him to be successful, and so we felt like. Well, the contract is the biggest thing, and it put us in a spot where we knew that was posing some challenges, both in terms of hiring and recruiting. There were some other off-the-field needs that I think would have needed to be addressed in terms of additional support staff positions, other things, and it just didn't make sense for us to put him in that position if we didn't believe that he was ultimately going to be the person.
But you say that you didn't ultimately believe he was going to be the person. It sounds like that's irrespective of the contract. Why did you believe that?
I think that for me, I don't know that. I don't know that. If we had left Bill in the situation for another year, if he'd gone out and won 10 games, then we all would have celebrated and been very happy about that. This was, Bill has done nothing wrong in this, and it was, again, I told him the first time I met him, I said, we're in a very challenging situation, and neither you or me put us here, and so we're moving through that, and just felt like this was the best outcome.
National image for Illinois it's taken a hit over the last year or so. Do you worry this is another hit nationally?
I understand that. I think that, as I told our team today, for some people this might feel like another body blow in a series of body blows, that we've had our challenges. I see it very differently. I see this as the first step toward what we ultimately want to build. And as most things are, this is a question of perspective. And this is the first very positive step toward developing that championship culture, that championship program that I know all of our fans and certainly all of us in this room hope and expect to see. And so I think this is a very positive development in the history of our football program. and I understand how some people might not view it that way. But obviously, if we didn't think this was in the best interest of Illinois football, we wouldn't do it.
Josh, is this going to be a one-man search committee?
Again, I don't know fully how our HR process works. I do know that, as you all can appreciate, a search for a head football coach has a certain need in terms of confidentiality, and the more people you get involved in that, the less likely you're able to move quickly and confidentially. And so definitely want to keep it as streamlined as possible and allow us to move agilely as an institution to identify our new person.
Are there financial constraints for you moving forward in terms of finding a new coach?
Well, there are always financial constraints. Every decision we make, of course, has financial implications, and we would be irresponsible if we didn't consider what those implications are. That said, I'm very grateful to our chancellor, to our board, to our president. I think we're all prepared to support this new coach in a way that we have not in the past, and I think it'll make us very competitive as we go out to look for the next football coach.
Josh, the meeting with Bill, his office, your office?
It was in his office.
And about how long of a meeting would you guess?
It was probably 20 minutes.
So this morning you've retained your men's coach, fired your football coach. It's 3:15. What else you got?
It's been an interesting first day, hasn't it?
In terms of dismissing Brian Cubit, was that an on-the-field decision? Was that sort of a level of awkwardness, personal relationships kind of decision? Where was that? Where did that sort of play in?
I think more the latter. Certainly having a father-son combination on a coaching staff is not uncommon in college football, but also recognizing the potential there and just decided that it would be cleaner for the next coach if we went ahead and made the combination move.
Josh, when you gave John Gross a vote of confidence today, just what went into that? Why do you think he's your guy moving forward?
I'm very confident in John's leadership of our basketball program. I've had a chance to sit and visit with him at some length over the last couple of weeks, and feel really good about the leadership that he's giving to our young men. Obviously, we've gone through a number of very difficult circumstances this year. We've been working through our facility issues also with our injuries. And so really excited about what we think the future looks like for that particular program. We all understand that we have a big opportunity in front of us in terms of recruiting. We have 5 or 6 scholarships coming available here in the next year. We've got a great crop of prospective student athletes. And so if Coach Gross is going to be our coach, we want to be sure that we provide him the same level of support that the highest level of support that we can to position him to be successful.
Josh, I heard you on Lauren's show this morning. You said you hope to get some downtime coming up. Is that now gone? Is that what by the board?
The best laid plans, right, Bob? I don't know. We'll see how these next couple of weeks unfold. I think that at this point, I talked to Hope and I said, look, we may have to put a pin in those vacation plans for a little while. We'll see if looks like it might be summer instead of spring break. So we'll figure it out.
Spring ball has been pushed back. Do you have a date would you like to get that started, or how's that going to come?
Well, we have made the decision to push spring football back, and that was one of the reasons that we wanted to move so quickly in making this announcement today. Was we certainly didn't want the current staff to get out there and start working with these guys this spring. We didn't feel like that would be fair to the staff, didn't feel like it'd be fair to the student athletes. But bear in mind the original schedule had them practicing for a week, then going on spring break, and then coming back and practicing after that. And so, roughly 2/3 of our practices were actually scheduled for post-spring break. And so our hope is that, again, seeing how this process unfolds, but we hope we might be able to capture a lot of those weeks and still get a nice shot of spring ball after spring break.
Have you met or talked to any potential candidates for the next job here?
I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to comment on any particular candidates. I will tell you that it's been very powerful for me just in the last few hours, the number of phone calls, text messages, emails I've received from potential candidates, from coaches, from agents, from search firms, dozens and dozens of text messages, people reaching out to me. And I told the guys in the room, they said, well, how do we talk about this with other people? And I said, don't ever apologize for what's happening at the University of Illinois. What we have happening at the University of Illinois is the opportunity to build a championship football program. And I think that the immediate interest that we have seen in this position demonstrates that. People understand the potential that is here in Champaign. People understand the opportunity that's here to do something great. And so that's exciting to me, the level of interest that's happened just immediately in that we have in this job. I think everybody understands what is possible here. And for me, this is the first step in that direction.
What are the challenges of making a hire at this time of year? You mentioned it was kind of a non-traditional.
It is a non-traditional time, and obviously most coaching positions have a cycle. Typically they follow relatively shortly after the conclusion of a given season. We realize that we're not on that cycle at this particular time, and so we'll need to work through that. We recognize that as being a challenge. But I think that getting someone on board, getting a staff on board, and still trying to capture that spring ball opportunity, that is the challenge that's in front of me at this particular point in time, and we need to do everything we can to try and work through it as quickly as we can.
Tim Beckman was fired a week before the season started. Bill Cubit was now fired a week before spring ball was supposed to start. Does that add to maybe the negative perceptions? The timing of these have been, I guess, not what usually happens.
Sure. In this particular case, today's my first day. So for the record, this is the earliest this could have happened. And so this wasn't someone waiting and saying, oh, let's wait and do this as close to the beginning of spring ball as we can. This is the first day that this could have happened. And so I realize how it might be perceived by some people on the outside. But on the other hand, as I said, if we know that this is a direction that we want to go, you'll find from me, I'm not someone who's going to delay making these kinds of decisions. We'll move as quickly as we need to once we know the direction we want to go.
Will search firm be used?
That's an interesting question. I've gone through a bit of an evolution with search firms. At one point in time, I was fairly anti-search firm. I think that as the world has continued to evolve, that there may be a time and place for use of a search firm. So that's one of the things we'll be evaluating here in the coming days to try and determine whether that would be a helpful asset or not.
You played in the NFL, you played for a former NFL coach. Just the timing of this, with all the college coaches preparing for spring ball, that leads to speculation about NFL coaches. What do you think of NFL coaches' transitions to college, and is that a possibility for you?
I think everything's on the table at this particular time. We're going to go out and find the best football coach for our program, and whether that's someone from the National Football League, whether it's someone from another Power 5 school, whether that's someone from high school, we're going to go out and find that person. And so certainly I feel very well positioned to try and lead this search. Got a great network in the world of football. But I don't think that we'll be disqualifying anybody depending on where they've been. We're just going to try and find the best fit.
Have you hired a football coach before? No, you inherited the guy. Lacrosse, maybe? Did you hire one?
We did. We did hire a football coach up at UW Lacrosse, yes.
Is that comfortable for you hiring a football coach because you know those sports so well?
I think there is a level of familiarity with football, and certainly one of the things that's challenging in being in a role like this one is you have to become an expert at a number of different sports, some of which you maybe have never experienced before personally. And so hiring a swimming coach, hiring a gymnastics coach, those are things that would be a little bit harder perhaps, but having that level of familiarity with football I think does certainly give me some advantage.
You're on the radio this morning and said, looking into Bill Cubit's situation, then an hour later, obviously he's fired. Was that just a timing thing where you were set for radio and then we're going to make this decision?
Well, sorry, Lauren. But obviously we had a certain way that we wanted to convey this message. I had not yet spoken with Coach Cubit at that point in time. I didn't think it was appropriate to tell the world that we were going to do this prior to me talking to the football coach. So there's, as you can imagine, this is the end result of a series of planning events, and we wanted to be sure and put this together in the right way and in the right order, and we just weren't prepared to comment on it while I was on the radio this morning.
We have any questions from the phone lines for Josh? Shannon, do you have anything?
Yeah, I do. Thanks. Sorry if you were asked this. I can't answer all questions asked to you, but was this part of your proposal during your interview process, the coaching change?
Absolutely not. No, this is a decision that I've reached on my own. It was not something that has been influenced by our administration, by any donors, any alumni. That will never be a part of my leadership of this program, and you know, I give great thanks to Chancellor Wilson and to President Colleen. They have never suggested in any way that they would interfere with the decisions we feel like we need to make running our program.
I meant when you were interviewed, was that part of your plan, what you presented as part of your hiring?
No, it was not.
Okay. And do you have a particular candidate in mind? Do you have a short list in your mind right now of guys it sounds like you want to move quickly. So do you have, like, is there a main guy you've got in mind, or 2 or 3 guys? How would you term that?
Well, certainly we've started to think about names. Again, I think you would be disappointed if I said I hadn't. Before you're going to make a change at this particular juncture in the year, you definitely want to have a plan. We will move as quickly as the university process allows us to do, and look forward to, again, to engaging some different people and hopefully finding a great football coach.
Was any of your decision based on Bill Cubit's ties to the previous regime that was under an investigation and found, the player mistreatment? Did you find anything there, or was that any concern to you?
No, that wasn't a part of this decision.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Josh. This is Kendrick. Question real quick. How do you plan to reach out to the recruits that have already signed and committed to Illinois?
We'll be in touch with them here in the next 24 hours. Again, we've got a plan put together of how we intend to handle communication, and so we'll be reaching out to them probably by email here in the next 24 hours, and then hopefully by phone in the days after that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Josh, if they want out of their letters of intent, would you grant that?
We would certainly talk with them. I think every situation has to be handled individually. Again, I understand in theory we want everybody to commit to the University of Illinois. We feel very strongly about what we're doing here. I would ask all of them to be patient with us and see the direction that we ultimately go. But we would handle each of those cases individually.
I know you're going to Big Ten basketball, but what do you do next? Is this now what you're doing, like today, tomorrow? Is that what this is your full-time job now?
Well, certainly. There are very few things in a program that would be more important than identifying a new football coach, and so we will work very diligently to, again, within the contours of university protocol, to do that as quickly and ably as we can.
Back to your discussions with John Gross, how big a piece of those discussions involve the off-the-field problems like Moran Black and the like, and what do you say to him about the importance of that piece?
Mm-hmm. Well, John knows my stance on those things, and that is that we have very low tolerance for off-the-court issues. I do, however, always go back to what our true mission is at a place like the University of Illinois. We're dealing with 18 to 23-year-old young men and women. They're going to make mistakes. When they do, we're going to take that as an opportunity to educate them, to develop them, to help them become better. That's a part of our job, is to prepare them to be more successful citizens in our community when they leave our campus. And I've talked at length with John about that. He shares that philosophy. On the other hand, and I know we had, I think, some quotes shortly after that event happened, also believe in accountability, and that's part of the lessons that we're teaching our student athletes, is that you all make decisions every day, and you have to be prepared to deal with the ramifications of those decisions. Everybody's accountable for their actions, whether it's me, whether it's Bob, whether it's anybody, and certainly an athlete here is no different. And that has been a part of our conversations, and I know that John has the same belief.
Do you give him some kind of, I don't want to say ultimatum, but some kind of no more of this kind of directive when he's talking to him?
No, I'm not a big ultimatum guy. That's not generally my approach. But certainly I'm not afraid, and I've talked about this in different circumstances, not afraid to have those kinds of conversations with coaches when things are going a way that I don't think represents our program in the way that we expect. We need to be prepared to have some difficult conversations, to talk about why these things are happening, and to be sure that we're all on the same page in terms of our expectations going forward.
You know, vote of confidence for John Gross, is that vote of confidence for a year, 2 years, through the duration of the rest of his contract?
You know, I think at the moment, this was, you know, I'm going to spend some time with John. I understand there's a lot of speculation, and so very excited to have him continue. To put a length on that at this point, I think would be premature.
When you were hired, we asked Barb Wilson about you being from here.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big deal. How about the football coach? Would you like somebody with ties to Illinois?
Mm-hmm.
Would that be important?
I think having an appreciation for what the University of Illinois is and what we represent is the most important thing. If that appreciation comes through someone playing here, going to school here, previously coaching here, whatever the case may be, I think that's helpful. But at the end of the day, really they just have to be able to answer that question. Does this individual appreciate the opportunity that they have to go out in Memorial Stadium every Saturday to work with those 105 guys that were in that room across the way? And if the answer to that can be yes, then I don't think that it necessarily has to be an Illinois guy.
You mentioned stability in your quote about in the release you had, and you know, what does getting rid of another football coach do to better stability?
Well, it allows us to go off and hire someone who's going to be here for a long time. I think we all understand that the contractual challenges that Bill had put that at question, and the new head coach, I feel fairly confident in saying will not be on a 2-year contract, and so we'll be in a position to go out and bring somebody here who can return a level of long-term vision to the program.
When you talked with players, how did you kind of achieve that, especially with juniors and seniors who've had really no stability?
Mm-hmm.
Junior and senior.
Yep. What I told them is that this is the end. You know, I said I have so much respect for them and everything that they have worked through over the last 6 months to a year, and it's just been challenge after challenge, and this is it. This is the last move, the last situation that we expect to pose this kind of short-term challenge, if you will, and our hope is that by doing this and doing it now, we're able to put all of those things behind us and really start to gain momentum going forward.
Time for one more question. How quickly do you expect that success to come with the new head coach, and what does that success look like to you?
Well, the long-term goals are no different than they are for any program in the country. We want to compete for Big Ten championships. We want to be in the competition for a national title. How long does that take to get there? I don't know. I don't know. We will be a process-driven program. We will focus on, as I said in my comments 2 weeks ago, we will focus on putting one foot in front of the next and climbing that mountain with determination and consistency. We are not looking for lightning in a bottle. We're not going to find that. But what I know how to do is to put incredibly hard work into something, to focus on it, to the detraction of almost everything else, and to continue to build something that ultimately will allow us to have that level of sustainable success. But it's about the process. It's not about the results.
All right. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, everybody.